And now UEN proudly presents Cheese Cubed. 3 tasty bits of cheese knowledge in one compact package. First, it's cheese by the numbers. Today's number is 63. That's the number of pounds per person for the country with the largest cheese consumption, Greece. Like milk through a strainer, these are the ways of our cheese. In this week's segment, cheese scientist Dr. Donald McMahon answers your question. How does milk turn into cheese curd?
How does milk turn into cheese curd? That's something that we've wondered about ever since we heard about Little Miss Muffet sitting, eating her curds and whey. But it's a fascinating thing that you can take something like milk and turn it into so many products and into something that's completely different like cheese. A fascinating thing about milk is that it is a very complex biological material, and it's really been designed by nature for the specific purpose of feeding the young infant. And so part of those requirements require lots of calcium, phosphate, protein, and a number of other nutrients that are needed. And one of the things in milk that makes it so unique is that the majority of the proteins, and particularly the ones that end up in the cheese, these are called caseins, are packaged together into particles. So if we could imagine them as a spherical ball, it's not as firm as this, in which we have maybe 10,000 or 20,000 proteins all linked together. And their purpose in this is that this is how they transport the calcium phosphate to the infant. But what happens is that through the process called renneting, part of the proteins on here are cut off the sphere. And it's if they form a patch on the sphere that is very sticky. And so what happens once that occurs, then 2 of them can now stick together. And actually, as it continues on, you could have multiples of them sticking together. Oops. And so on until you no longer have spheres, but you actually have a chain of these linked together. And eventually, all of the caseins particles in milk join together and throughout the whole volume. So if it's a big vat of cheese, then you have all of them linked together, and when they do that, they form a solid which we recognize as being the start of cheese curd. I'm Donald McMahon. I'm a cheese scientist, and I have the greatest job in the world because at the end of the day, I get to eat all my research.
And now it's time for the Queso Quiz. Test your cheese knowledge. What is curdling? A. When milk proteins become more solid. B. When milk rennet or acid is activated. C. Both A and B. The answer is C. Curdling is the coagulation process in cheese manufacturing when milk proteins called casein is clotted by the action of rennets and acids. Cheese Cubed is a tasty bit of cheesy knowledge brought to you by Utah Education Network with support from Cache Valley Cheese, DSM Food Specialties, Schreiber Foods, Gosner Foods Incorporated, and the Western Dairy Center. Learn more at uen.org/TV.